Hi everyone, my name is Miss Healy and I am the Student Assistance Program Counselor, SAP Counselor for short, here at Schaefer Middle School. My job here at Schaefer is pretty much in my title. I am here to assist and support you, the students. Today, I wanted to share with you all a presentation I created that focuses on coping skills for stress and anxiety. I'm sure, at some point, one or another, especially this past year, you've all experienced stress or anxiety. So I wanted to share with you all what skills and strategies can be helpful in coping with both stress and anxiety. But before we begin, I want you to take a moment to think about today's topic. Is there something specific you want to know, or what do you want to get out of this presentation today? So just take a second to think. All right, so here's our learning agenda for today. We are going to talk about understanding and identifying stress and anxiety, what the causes and triggers may look like for each, the differences and similarities between stress and anxiety, and how they can impact your physical health, techno stress, defining what coping skills are and providing some examples, and then finally, coping strategies for stress and anxiety. I want to ask you now, are you currently feeling stressed or anxious? Take a moment to think about how you currently handle those times when you are stressed or anxious. Do you handle them in a healthy way or maybe a not so healthy way? Do you keep your thoughts and feelings inside or do you talk to someone? I want you to take a look at this number line on the screen. This is the stress check. Check in with yourself right now and do a little self assessment. Are you in a good space and can focus? Is something on your mind or something bothering you, but you can still focus? Or are you having trouble managing your emotions right now? So I first want to define stress. So what is stress? Stress is a feeling of emotional or physical tension. Stress can come from anything that makes you feel frustrated, angry, or nervous. Stress is your body's reaction to a challenge or a demand. And maybe looking at the picture on the slide, maybe you guys have been in this girl's spot at one point or another, maybe this year. But hear me out. Not all stress is bad. Stress can rev you up and give you more energy to handle a tough situation. That's the way that your body makes sure that you will come out of that situation okay. Stress is also a normal part of life, especially when you're going through lots of changes or aren't sure about how things will turn out. So not all stress is bad. All right, so we defined stress, but now what is anxiety? Anxiety is an intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. So I want to reiterate those three words again. Anxiety is intense, excessive, and persistent. All right, now that we've defined both stress and anxiety, we're going to watch a video that further clarifies the difference between stress and anxiety.
Hi, we're Misfits Market. We rescue organic produce and surplus pantry stations.
I've always been a worried kid. Sometimes my fearful nature has been helpful to me. It's made me a conscientious child. But when fourth grade rolled around, it turned into something else entirely. What my parents saw as a cute or silly quirk started to become much worse. What I worried about was pretty irrational. My fear was that my parents would die while I was at school, wouldn't pick me up. I would have nowhere to go and have to live with some strangers. Now, you should know that my parents never gave me any reason for me to believe that they wouldn't pick me up. They were always there when they needed to be. I had never experienced any trauma either. Nothing had happened that would make my fears feel real, but even then, they affected my everyday life. They affected me to the point where I would cry on the way to school, and when I got to school, I couldn't focus because I was counting down the minutes until I could run outside to see if my parents were there to pick me up. I hated every second of school because I was stressed something terrible was going to happen. I was stressed whenever the phone rang in the classroom that it was someone going to be telling me that my parents had died. I was stressed whenever my parents went out because I was afraid they wouldn't come home. But it wasn't stress, it was anxiety. At the time, I told myself that what I was going through was nothing out of the ordinary. However, when my parents tried to talk to me about it, I started to realize that it wasn't as normal as I wanted myself to believe. I started to feel like something was wrong with me, and I shut down when people tried to talk to me about it. I really did not want to believe that what I was going through was an actual problem. I wanted to believe it was just normal stress. But stress and anxiety are two very different things. Stress is a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances, while anxiety is defined as a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. Basically, stress is a reaction to something, which can be managed. But anxiety is different, very different. Think of when you're assigned a ton of homework and you're scared you can't get it all done. That feeling is stress, but anxiety takes it a step further. It makes you start to think that if you can't get all this homework done, then you'll fail the class. And if you fail the class, you can't get into a good college. If you can't get into a good college, then your life is doomed forever. While this might not make that much sense, of course your life is not doomed. Many students suffer with this fear. Now, sometimes stress can be beneficial to us. It can help us make good decisions, like recognizing the need to study for a test. But anxiety is rarely, if ever, beneficial. I like to think of anxiety that's like a cloud that looms over everything you do. It's always in your mind and prevents you from taking actions to solve problems. Anxiety are negative thoughts in your brain and won't go away no matter what. Anxiety can be disastrous to your life if you don't treat it, and you can't treat it if you don't know you have it. Now, earlier this year, we had an assembly on how to treat stress. They gave us helpful tips such as to get 8 to 10 hours of sleep every night and to do all your homework and to eat a healthy breakfast. These things, while helpful, cannot cure anxiety. People, specifically students, need to be educated on how to decipher between stress and anxiety, and not just in themselves, but for other people. And parents and teachers need to know the differences between the two and the signs of someone experiencing either one. When something normal, like sadness or worry, starts to prevent you from going through your daily routine, that's when you know you need to seek assistance. In the end, what helped me was not denying that my fears could ever happen, but making a plan in case some of them did. With the help of my parents, we made a list of phone numbers that I could call in case they actually did die while I was at school. I kept this list in my homework folder. These initial plans helped me regain that safe and secure feeling, control, which is what I really wanted. Now, I'm not about to come up here and say, I know how to solve anxiety, but I do know knowing yourself and being educated on where to get help is key. Be willing to open up and talk about it. Talk to a doctor or counselor who knows how to treat anxiety, and in time, you can find the right plan for your life. For me, discovering that I had a problem that could be solved was a huge relief. My goal is to encourage any of you suffering with something similar to seek help. For me, my mom forced me to bring it out into the open, to face it and to acknowledge it. And in the end, that's what made it better. It made me better. Learning that I didn't have to live in constant fear gave me hope. Now, I still struggle with some anxiety today. Little things like thinking my phone isn't in my locker when I've just seen it minutes ago. But now I can walk my way through it and say, where would it have gone and what's the worst that can happen? Accepting that I will likely struggle with some form of anxiety for the rest of my life, but relying on healthy and effective ways of coping with it has changed my life for the better. If you have anxiety, it's hard to have hope that things can get better, so you try and ignore it. But trust me when I say you can't fix it alone. It might seem scary talking about it with a parent or teacher, but in the end, that's what's going to lead to recovery. Now, if you know someone struggling with anxiety, be there for them. It might seem silly to you that they're worrying about things that have such a little chance of ever happening, but it feels real to them and harms their life. If they're talking to you, that means they're taking one step further on the road to recovery. Encourage them to talk to their parents. Now, if you or someone you know is struggling with anxiety, offer to listen to them. Avoid saying things like, that's silly, you shouldn't think that way. Those things are harmful to the anxious person and risk them withdrawing and not seeking further help. Instead, be supportive and let them know that you're sorry with them. If you're in school, offer to go with them to the school counselor. The antidote to anxiety is to bring it out into the open. Don't let it fester and grow inside of you. Anxiety thrives in isolation, inside your mind. Overall, anxiety is going to try and convince you that there's no hope, but hopelessness is a lie, and I encourage you not to give in to that belief. Thank you.
So as it was mentioned in the video, it's important for us to be able to recognize the difference between stress and anxiety, and also not just for ourselves, but for others too, so we can help, where to go for help for us, and then also for our friends too. All right, so there are a lot of situations in our life that can cause or trigger stress and anxiety for us. So here are some examples. First one being major life changes. So these can include divorce or separation, loss of a family member, a friend, or a pet, an illness, a health change in someone close to you. Another major life change is this pandemic, with COVID-19, and it's definitely had an impact and, has made, a major change in our life and how we do things and things like that. School is another example. So that can include the homework load that we have, our busy schedules, especially if we're involved with after school sports and clubs, peer pressure, and then image concerns as well. Relationship difficulties with friends, family, a family member, or significant others. The inability to accept uncertainty, meaning that you feel uncertain or maybe doubtful about the future. And then as well, thoughts of doubt and hopelessness, unrealistic expectations, striving to be perfect in everything we do. And then also negative self-talk can be a cause or trigger of stress and anxiety. Some examples of negative self-talk can include, I'll never understand this, I'm not good enough, or I don't like how I look. So these are all examples of causes or triggers of stress and anxiety. Alrighty, so the overlaps and differences of stress and anxiety. So we'll start with stress. So stress is a response to an external cause, so something going on the outside. For example, taking a big test or having an argument with a friend. Stress goes away, however, once the situation is resolved. Stress can also be positive or negative. So one way it can be positive is that it can inspire you to meet a deadline that you have, and then the negative could be it could cause you to lose sleep. Anxiety, on the other hand, is generally something that's internal, something going on the inside. So, meaning it's your reaction to stress. Anxiety usually involves persistent feelings of worry or dread that doesn't go away. So, going back to stress, stress goes away once the situation is resolved. Anxiety does not. Anxiety also interferes with how you live your day to day life. And it's also constant, even if there is no immediate threat. So those are the differences between stress and anxiety. But if you look in the middle, one similarity they do have is that they both can affect your mind and your body. Here are some common signs that you may be feeling when either stressed or anxious. If you noticed, there are a lot of physical symptoms. So, for example, with stress, you could have a faster heartbeat, faster breathing, may feel moody or irritable, may also be feeling overwhelmed, also maybe feeling lonely or sick and nauseous, and dizziness too. Anxiety, here some of them are similar: faster heartbeat, faster breathing, having that feeling of unease or dread, like we mentioned before, sweating, feeling nervous, or your body tenses and you're also restless. Stress and anxiety can have an effect on your body and how you're feeling. So here are some common effects of stress and anxiety on your physical health. So one, headaches. Number two, muscle tension and pain. Three, you could experience chest pain. And then next, fatigue or tiredness, feeling, really sleepy. Five, you have an upset stomach. And six, you have issues with sleeping. So these are all common effects of stress and anxiety on your body that you could experience. All right, so now I briefly want to talk with you guys about technostress. Maybe you have heard of it, or you can guess what it is by the name and the visual here. So technostress is stress caused by working with computers or technology on a daily basis. All right, now these are some examples of digital stressors that you may be feeling due to technology overload. So the first one is digital obligations overload. So that's, feeling of always having to be being on the device on your phones 24/7. The obligation you feel of keeping up with all the social media apps that you may be on, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, trying to keep up with texting threads or group chats so, you stay in the loop, or just feeling obligated to respond to those messages. Also, another obligation to, collecting, dishing out, and reciprocating likes to followers on social media. And then also an obligation to maybe if you're involved in a gaming community and video games online. Number two, just feeling burnt out from, trying to keep up with all these obligations and with social media. It can really, have an impact and just make you feel burnt out and tired. And then there's the emotional overload. Being on social media can cause that constant comparison, maybe always wanting what, another follower has that you don't. Another example is just always feeling like you have to show your best and put your, best pictures out there. And then there's also FOMO, fear of missing out. So if someone, maybe a group of people get together, maybe your friends get together without you, that emotional feeling of just feeling like you're being left out or that you're missing out on something. And then also another stressor is regard to your self-esteem. So, being on social media can definitely have an impact on our self-esteem and how we feel about ourselves, especially when it comes to getting followers and likes. Sometimes people can leave negative comments on our posts, and which can make us, feel bad about ourselves and can cause shame as well. So, how can we handle all of this stress and anxiety? Well, I'm going to tell you, and that's with coping skills and strategies. So, what are coping skills and strategies? Coping skills help you deal with life's difficult challenges, but in a healthy, productive way. And so, why are they important? Well, they're important because they help you feel better both physically and emotionally. They also have a positive impact on your ability to perform at your best and do well. Coping skills and strategies also help increase resilience, and resilience, is it's a skill where you learn to bounce back from tough situations in your life. All right, so here's an example of a coping skill I wanted to talk with you about. They're breathing techniques and grounding exercises. So, breathing exercises can be a very helpful technique when we are feeling stressed or anxious. If you look to the picture on the right, these are some examples of breathing exercises. So, the first one is square breathing. You just kind of where to start here. You follow the arrows by breathing in for 4, and then holding for 4, breathing out for 4, holding for 4 again, and just repeating that over and over. And then there is lazy 8 breathing. So once again, where it says start here, following the arrows, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, and just kind of moving your finger following the arrows. And then the last one is deep breathing, following your hand. So holding your hand out in front of you and going up and down your fingers, breathing in, out, and so on. All right, by doing these breathing exercises, you're actually helping yourself relax and lower your stress. Another helpful skill is the grounding technique. If you look at the image below, the grounding technique involves using your 5 senses. So the next time you're feeling anxious or stressed, try this simple exercise here. So look around you and notice 5 things you can see. Maybe that's your hands. Maybe you see the sky if there's windows in your classroom, or a plant, or maybe you see the teacher standing in front of the classroom. 4 things you can feel. Maybe that's your feet on the ground, the chair you're sitting in, or your arms on your desk. 3 things you can hear. Maybe that's birds chirping if the windows are open, or your breath, or maybe it's your teacher or another student talking, or it's another student tapping their pen or pencil on the desk. 2 things you can smell. Maybe that's coffee, or your lunch, or your clothes if they were recently washed. 1 thing you can taste, a mint, gum, or fresh air. So using the grounding technique is very helpful in pulling yourself, away from negative and challenging emotions, and it just gets you back into focus. Both are very important skills to learn when trying to cope with stress and anxiety. Another coping skill that can be learned is stopping our automatic negative thoughts. And that's ANTS for short. Our thoughts impact how we feel and how we act. Over time, automatic negative thoughts can become hardwired in our minds. But as I said, this skill can be learned. So rewiring those thoughts is definitely possible. Here's how you can do it. So the first step is stopping. Stop that negative thought in its tracks. As soon as it enters your head, stop. Stop it right there. Next step would be to control that thought that comes into your head. And then challenge it. Ask yourself, is this thought that I'm thinking true? And I'm not asking yourself if you believe it's true, but if it is true. Challenge it with evidence that you have or facts that you have. And then the last is change the thought. Turn this negative thought into a more positive one. So for example, on the slide, if you look, the negative thought that may pop in is, this assignment is too hard. I'm going to mess it up and not get a good grade. And this is kind of how you can change it to a more positive thought. I can figure this out and ask for help. I have overcome tough challenges before. All right, and this is just sort of a visual of how you can rewire your brain. So for example, you can't do it. I believe in you. Or you don't deserve it. I just love you. Or you aren't good enough. You are one tough cookie. Or you just aren't smart enough. You are meant for great things. So as you can see, rewiring your brain, it takes time. It's a skill to learn, but it is possible. All right, another very important skill, as I'm sure you all know, is taking care of yourself. This may be the most important skill because when it comes to taking care of ourselves, we feel better. We have more energy and we have more confidence. How you can take care of yourself is by eating healthy. And no, I'm not saying you can't have that slice of pizza. It's just all about balance. Exercise, get active. Whether it's going for a walk, a run, doing a workout with family or friends, stretching, whatever it is you like to do to get your body moving, go and do it. And finally, get plenty of sleep. Sleep is so important. I don't know about you, but when I don't get enough sleep, I'm tired, frustrated, and don't have a lot of energy the next day. To help with that, think about setting a bedtime routine, like taking a shower, brushing your teeth, reading a book, and try to put your phone away a half hour before you go to sleep to help stop the mindless scrolling. Maybe that's on cat videos that keeps you from getting to bed at a good time. And finally, one last coping skill I want to share is to talk to someone. Whomever it is, a friend, a sister, brother, cousin, a parent, a teacher, a school counselor, a school nurse, anyone. Sometimes when we let out how we are feeling and get it off our chest, it can help us feel a lot better. It's like a weight's being lifted off our shoulders. So go to someone you trust and that you know will help and support you. All right, so we reviewed some coping skills we can learn. Now let's talk about coping strategies. There are different types of coping strategies as listed on this slide. So there are active coping strategies, relaxing coping strategies, creative ones, social ones, and ones that help you shift your mindset. Let's start with active coping strategies. So active coping strategies, as you probably know, are strategies that involve being active, whether it's going for a walk, a run, or a bike ride, or jumping rope, kicking a ball. When you feel stressed or anxious, getting up and moving your body is a great strategy to help relieve them both. Next are relaxing coping strategies that include listening to calming music. And no, I'm not saying Megan Thee Stallion is not calming music. Taking deep breaths, getting up to get a drink of water, taking a bath or a shower, reading a book or a magazine, or just laying outside staring up at the clouds. All good ideas when you want to relieve some of your stress and anxiety. For all my creative friends and artists out there, try some of these creative coping strategies like coloring, painting, writing down your thoughts and feelings in a journal, or writing a letter, playing music, or maybe even writing a song. All right, next are social coping strategies, and as you may have guessed, involve reaching out to someone like a family member, a friend, or maybe even your furry friends. If you can't see friends and family in person right now, send them a text, give them a call, or FaceTime video chat them. Share your feelings and talk to someone you trust when you're feeling stressed or anxious. One final coping strategy involves ways to shift your mindset. For example, thinking of something positive. Talk to yourself in a positive way. For example, I know I'm capable of anything I set my mind to. I am worthy of love and respect, or I'm proud of myself. Before you go to bed, try writing down, or thinking about 5 things you're grateful for that day. Or close your eyes and think about something you're looking forward to. Think about something that makes you laugh when feeling stressed or anxious. And most importantly, focus on what you can control. So as you can see, there are a plethora of coping strategies that you can utilize when dealing with stress and anxiety. Choose the ones that you think would work best for you. And remember, coping skills like changing negative thoughts and breathing grounding exercises can all be learned. It just takes some time. So practice, practice, practice. However it is you decide to cope with stress and anxiety, know that you are not alone. Your feelings are valid and that we are here to help you. Thank you for listening to this presentation.